Welcome back to The Big Issue. My name is Godfred Akoto Boafo, discussing the voters' exhibition exercise and the problems that it has come with. The statements from the NDC and their flag bearer that they will not accept the outcome of a flawed election. So pressure on the EC to fix the anomalies that have been identified. I'm doing the show this morning with the Honorable Andrew Mercer, Member of Parliament for Sekondi. Segbefia is also here, NDC Deputy Campaign Manager. And let's go do some virtual interviews now, though. Let's talk to Rhoda Osei-Afo, team lead for elections at CDD Ghana. Rhoda, good morning.
Good morning, Godfred.
Thank you for spending some time with us. I know we're a bit late, but do forgive us. What have you made of the voters' exhibition exercise and the questions that have been raised based on your organization's experience with elections? Hello, Rhoda. Hello. Well, I think we have a bit of a lag in the line, but we'll get it working. Let me just take a couple of messages as well that have come through. So somebody sends a message and says that the 2012 exhibition exercise saw 7,318 people filing inclusion forms because their names were not in the register. It then gives a regional breakdown. So Western had 854, Central 684, Volta 394, Eastern 380, Ashanti 1,627, BA 397, Northern 491, Upper East 1,768, Upper West 276. It says that over 28,000 double registrations were also identified in 2016. Now, if you go on Twitter, some of the messages that have come in on the show this morning. So, a couple. Let me just take those. Okay, let me go back to Rhoda. Hello, Rhoda.
Hello.
Yeah, so Rhoda, I was asking what your thoughts have been on the EC's voter exhibition exercise this weekend, the questions that have been raised by the NDC.
Yes, good morning to your panelists in the studio and to your listeners. First of all, let me just say that because of the work that I also do with Codeo, I would like to dwell from some insights from Codeo's work and observations. Codeo currently has some 65 observers in 65 constituencies who have also been monitoring the exhibition exercise. I would like to touch on the issue of turnout and then come to the other issues. I think so far, the issue that is coming up is whether the extension, there should be extension of the 2 days that the Electoral Commission has added is adequate or not. From Codeo's observation so far, daily turnout for many of the places that observers have visited has been less than 50 people, which means that a lot of people are not going. It could be that many people are using the SMS platform. Currently, we don't have any idea from the Electoral Commission as to how many people have been able to verify their details from using the SMS platform. But if we are looking at people who are physically going to the exhibition centers, for us so far, it's not the best. Many people have not gone out there to verify their details. I mean, this morning, a few places that I've seen the exhibition centers open, you see that people are just virtually sitting there. The exhibition officials are there. People are not really showing up. So the point that I want to emphasize is that people have to go and show up, because otherwise we are going to have all of these issues coming back in the final register. In 2012, when we did it for the first time, the biometric registration, we had 10 days. After that exercise, there were a lot of calls on the Electoral Commission as to whether the 10 days was adequate or not. In 2016, the Commission extended it. They used about 21 days. So there was, I mean, the turnout was not encouraging. So it makes you wonder whether indeed the way to address the problem is really extending the number of days or not. Because I believe that if we really want to show up, then the number of days may be, it can facilitate that, but there's a lot more that people have to do in terms of going to check. Related to that is the issue of people who will not be able to travel and verify their details, but have to use the SMS platform. So if you were, for instance, an SHA student who registered on your campus, and now you are back home, and you may not be able to go back to your school, your campus where you registered, and now you are using the SMS platform. And we know, the Electoral Commission, I think, also recognize that there are people who text and they don't get feedback. So for all of these people, what is the avenue that they have? What avenue exists for them to be very sure that indeed their details are there? Is the Electoral Commission going to make it possible for them to call some numbers at some point in time to check that I couldn't go to the center, and yet when I use the SMS platform, I couldn't get any feedback like I did. I didn't get the feedback. So if I'm unable to go to my center because it's in a different community, what is the avenue that I have to check that my name indeed is on the register? So that is the issue with the turnout. Now, coming to the other issues that have come up with regards to missing names, let me say that indeed, from the Kodi observers, a few of them have reported that there were some exhibition centers where there were, a number of people whose names were missing from the register. At one center, for instance, they have a little over 500, close to 500 people's names are not on the register. So this is really problematic. It points to the fact that maybe there's some significant challenge somewhere. We understand that, yes, the provisional register is always having some of these challenges. There are always people whose names might be missing here and there, will be having all the errors, whether it's the fault of the people who enter the data or not. But I think there's a problem that we need to recognize, which is that there are some places that are having serious challenges with regard to the number of names that are not on the register. And so on that perspective, I think the Electoral Commission really must recognize that something has to be done and be done fast to redeem the problem or to salvage the situation so that we don't get into problems. We shouldn't just rubbish it, if I should use that language, and say that, these are, the usual mistakes, and so we should be fine. I think there might be some problem somewhere. Of course, I believe that because they had quite some limited amount of time to put all of this together. I think one of the panelists mentioned the issue of what happened in 2012 and now. In 2012, they were done with the registration itself. They had about 4 months to put the list, the data together, and then come back to the various centers to now exhibit the provisional register. In 2020, they had practically less than 7 weeks or so to do this. So probably all of that have affected the way in which this register was put together and some of the mistakes or the errors that are coming up. The most important thing is that now that these errors have been identified, what next? What is the Electoral Commission doing? And at what point in time do people get assured that all of these issues have been addressed? I think for the parties and the Electoral Commission, this is where they need to be engaging a lot more. They need to have honest conversations. The Electoral Commission, where there are some genuine mistakes, they should be able to open up that, look, this is what we identified. We had an error with this, with our database or with our software or with our human resource. And this is why we have experienced this. You open up to the parties, and we expect that the parties would also, because we are all looking at how we can have a credible process, they should also come on board and see how best together we can address all of these issues. But if we are all boxed into our different corners and we are looking at just how issues, we can defend ourselves or we can make good cases for ourselves, it's not going to help all of us. And at the end of the day, probably it's the ordinary voter who is going to suffer on election day. The other issue I want to raise is, now, at some point in time, the Electoral Commission, once the register is certified, they will have to give copies to the political parties. The political parties will have an opportunity to check and see if indeed places that they identified with this issue of missing names, all of these problems have been addressed or not. But the question I have is, so what if after the register is certified, there are still all of these issues? How do we go about it? Because the certified register is a certified register. That is what we have to use for the elections. And yet, if there are still problems, how do we deal with it? So these are issues that I think the Electoral Commission may also want to engage the parties. We should always have a plan B. What if things go this way or that way? And then we should be able to make progress. Communication is going to be key. The way in which the Electoral Commission engages the political parties is going to be key, and the way in which they engage with the voters is also going to be important, so that together we can have that trust that we need to instill in the process, and then hopefully we can have a smooth process on election day.
You talk about the missing names. I have a couple of questions. Let's start from there. In your experience, the scope of the anomalies that are being spoken about, Is it above normal? Is it average? Can you give an answer to that?
Yes, I mean, when this issue came out, I had to go back and check the Kodio report on the 2012 exhibition exercise. And with regards to the issue of missing names, on average, in 2012, when we observed the exhibition exercise, the number of names that were missing from the register at specific polling centers or exhibition centers, on average was between 1 and 30. Okay, 30 names missing, or 5 names, 2 names, I mean, all of that. So that is where I say that there might be some problems somewhere when you see that there's these numbers that are missing. There were the Electoral Commission tells us that there were some places where in 2012 they had major issues, but those were quite particular isolated cases. In this instance, we've seen a few other places. The trend is a bit scattered, so maybe in this region you have this place, this constituency or this district that has this problem. And the numbers are huge, 400, 200, 500. So it tells you that something might have happened somewhere which is not helping. Have they been able to identify the root of the problem? That's why I said it will be important for them to communicate, because you are dealing with actors. First of all, there's no mistrust, okay? People don't, the actors you are dealing with, they all don't trust themselves, they don't trust you. Therefore, you also should be conscious. This is a sensitive issue. How do you make sure that whatever position angle people are coming from, at least to the best of your abilities, you're providing information out there for them to, I mean, if anything at all, the general public will be able to determine or have an idea of what really is happening. So far, there's no sense, I mean, you don't get any communication as to what may be responsible for these missing names. I think with regards to the issue of the serial numbers or people with duplicate numbers, they've explained that, and they've done well. They've indicated that these are the places that have been affected. Overall, there are about 60,000 people, and all of that. You can make the estimations and see what percentage of the voter population that is. But of course, that also was communication that came too late, okay? That came, the commission informed the public just because the NDC had raised, I mean, I don't know whether it was the NDC, but there had been videos in circulation that were providing some meanings as to what may have been happening. And that was where the Electoral Commission has to come in with a statement. So they have to be proactive in terms of the engagement with stakeholders. You have to anticipate that people can read meanings into what you are doing. And of course, it's fair for them, because if I don't understand what is happening, then I'm looking at the issues and from my own point of view, based on what I understand, I can form my own opinion of what is happening. It will not be a fair assessment. But so far as you haven't communicated to me what really is happening, then of course you need people to do that. So it's important that they also proactively engage. Where there are problems, like I said, they need to own up, recognize, acknowledge where there are limitations. We shouldn't be shy about our problems, but of course, it's the way in which the atmosphere has been so poisoned that it's difficult for all of them to come together and open up. But it's not going to help us. We just have to look at the national interest. What is going to be in the interest of our electoral processes? So that is what must guide our engagement as stakeholders, whether you are the political party or not. Because I mean, we are raising the issue. So what? Like, for instance, the issue about the names missing. Yes, the names are missing. So what? What has to be happening? That is the most important thing. How is the EC addressing these issues? But if we want to hook on the fact that this has happened and all of that, the issue is how much does it move us in terms of improving the process? Because we can't just get hooked on the problems, the identification of the problems. We must be focused on identifying the solutions. And when we do that, then we'll be able to make some progress.
All right, then. Thank you very much, Rhoda. I know you have a busy schedule this weekend, so thank you very, very much for your time this morning on the big issue. You heard Rhoda Osei-Afo. She's the team lead for elections, CDD Ghana. So she does say that with regards to scope, if you want to compare 2012 and this election and this particular exercise in 2020, the numbers seem a bit on the high side, but also because we've had an increase in the number of persons on the register. Not at all. Obviously. No. You don't want to add. I'm telling you that the increment is totally disproportionate. It's negligible? It's not negligible. It's totally disproportionate. The 2012 figures and the rise that we are seeing in terms of issues this time, if you're looking at 1 to 30 per polling station, and in one station there are 400 people missing. I've given you the numbers. 21,000 in one place.
or even if you want to go by their this thing, 7,000, this is totally disproportionate. Look, we believed that the exhibition exercise was going to be like the past. That's why we were campaigning. We didn't go with any cynicism. We were campaigning. Do you think that our flag bearer and our running mate would stop for the fun of it? If we didn't realize what was happening was just too much. That's what actually happened. We looked at the things that were coming to us, it was like, go back. Look, all the campaigning we are doing, if we mess up on the register, we might as well just stop. The register is the key to everything. And this is why we have been on it from day one. Anyway, if I can just be quick, because I know...
Oh, no, we have time, so don't worry too much on this one. But also, before you get to your points, I want you to address some of the issues Rhoda raised on engagement and communication.
Yes.
And you spoke about how IPAC is not being taken seriously by the EC. Perhaps, and Lawyer Mercer raises the issue that, look, from the time this particular commissioner took over, it's been day one war between your party and her. Perhaps isn't it time that you also tone down a bit to meet halfway? It doesn't look like you are willing to meet the EC halfway.
That is not correct. If we say to you that if you do A, we'll have a problem tomorrow at this point, and you choose to do it, and the problem comes, why does it become our fault?
Is it not how you say it?
It's not a question of how you say it. It's also a question of how they behave. Are we having a dialogue? The problem with IPAC now is a decision is made and it's fostered on people. It's not a question of we are coming to
build consensus.
No. If you make a decision and you come and say, this is the decision we have made, and we will not allow us to debate your decision, it's like a house and a home. There's a difference between a home and there's a difference. Everybody stays in a house, but when you say something is in a home, it implies certain things. What we have in IPAC is not a question of who attends or who doesn't attend. It is no longer a consensus body. Look, they've just decided that at the last IPAC, that registration is a continuous exercise. Therefore, they can register people as the law requires for 60 days. And the 60 days up to the election. Why didn't you say that some time back? Because we've been asking all along. Look, people who are abroad, people who were locked up, what are you going to do about it? Why didn't you say, look, we have this issue of continuous registration has been there from time immemorial. We've been saying at least once a month at the district level, do registration so that anybody who comes in or who hasn't registered or turns 18, so that you don't have a huge number to deal with in terms of, I won't register anybody from this day to this day, we are going to, and everybody must come. No. There are people who travel in and out of the country. There are people who work in different places, but they want to vote. So if you have a continuous registration exercise, which was the plan, once a month, we've told you all these things. You come to IPAC and say, now all of a sudden you're going to do it. Bearing in mind that ROPAL is a real issue at the moment. So once you know ROPAL is a real issue, you have to be careful how you give out information and on what basis. If we had told them that, look, people have registered, so open the register can't close, you can imagine the reaction we would have got. Now they are telling us, oh yes, they can register. And then that raises all manner of suspicion. But look, I don't want to spend too much time on those aspects. I'm dealing with what? One, I've dealt with the issue of IPAC is not working. Because we attend IPAC, but we are told. It's not a debate.
And then you walk out.
And we take what they have said. We debated them and everybody used to fight that we are fighting. We state our position and we go. Okay. Because it's no longer, let's build a consensus. No. That's not what happens at IPAC. And we have been saying this, it's not today. Okay. So when I say IPAC is not working, that's the basis upon it. It has never been like this. Okay. My colleague asked for a total of how much to do a percentage. No. Sometimes when you look at some things in that way, you lose a bit. It's a valid question, but it is not necessarily the best way to look at it. Because in any event, we said, and the flag bearer said it in his statement, that, look, this is just a fraction of what we know is happening. But he took the ones that were clear and brought it. So we are compiling. We will come out with the figure of what we say happened now and possibly happened by the time we get to Sunday. Because we took it as a normal exhibition, a lot of people did what normally happens in exhibitions. They don't necessarily go and check. Mm-hmm. This time, because of the figures, we have gone back to all our people and said, go and check. And also, you see, notwithstanding the beauty of the short code, now people are paranoid.
Oh.
Yes, because people are now saying that if mistakes can be made, the fact that I got it clear on the short code does not mean that I'm necessarily clear. So I want to go and see it myself.
Hey.
Yes, I mean, that is where everybody's going.
And we are having 50 per day at exhibition centers.
Look, Kodio doesn't cover every. I'm telling you that this is just. She's talking of what has happened. Technically we're on the last day. Sorry, not the last day. The last day was yesterday.
But 2 days have been added. So tomorrow.
Yes, Sunday is the last day. But I'm saying Kodia's report is based on what has happened basically for the opening of the exhibition almost to the last day. And at that point, our press conference was the day before.
Yeah,
and we have now told all our people, go and now check not only your name. I, for example, as a clear example, my name was checked. You're on the register. Fine.
The number.
Short code, I didn't do short code because I knew my name was there. But the people never checked
your PIN.
My PIN number. I said, I better go and check my PIN number for me. This is my PIN number. Or do I have to come myself?
And are you checking your PIN?
Oh, I've already done so. I was going to show it to you.
So regardless of, even though the short code is a beautiful innovation, because of the difficulties with the PIN.
Godfred, you can take a look.
Please pass it to me. I want to see his PIN. Everything is working.
I actually even checked for a friend of mine.
Oh, okay.
It's all working.
Yeah. I'm not saying that it's not working. I'm saying that those people who are worried, you see these things, perception is a very beautiful thing. And our politics runs on it a lot. If somebody is sitting somewhere and he's told that, if your vice president, actually, her PIN number was not correct, are you going to sit down? She went to the office and was told, there's a problem. She had to come back to the district office to get it rectified. So all of us are on tenterhooks because of the scope and the width of what is happening. So we are saying to everybody, notwithstanding what the short code is saying,
go out there and check.
Still go and check physically that this is the case.
Okay.
In his case, he has given an example that, or was it you, that when you put on the thing and they told him that there's a problem.
Yes, a cousin of mine, yes.
Well, I don't know whether that is happening to a lot of people or people know. But as an idea, as an innovation, good. I think the short code can be commended. But when it is flawed, or it is attacked indirectly by other things that are happening, then the fact that it's there doesn't mean people are going to deal with it.
Fair.
They will still go and do the manual check, which is what we are telling people in these next 2 days. That is today and tomorrow. If you haven't checked, go and check and also do the manual check, not only for your name or your picture, but check the serial number. It has never happened before. It's unprecedented in terms of how we are now in. And that is why we had to stop our tour. Moving on quickly.
You have 5 minutes.
Okay. Charlotte Esai had 2 very experienced deputies and others. The number of people who were changed, she was the only one who came into an already experienced this thing. So I think the point I was making was the lack of experience across board, not because of the one person. That is not the issue I was making. I've commended the EC on their short code, but the anomalies. I'm being as fair as I can be. Yeah. But the anomalies, it has been undermined by the other issues. So even though it's a good innovation, we are now going to check manually we are going to encourage our people to do so because we want to ensure. We have never said anywhere that these anomalies have never happened before. Nowhere, as he considered even in his statement. What we are saying is the scope is too huge and there are problems. We got figures from Kodeo, 1 to 30. We are now in thousands. It doesn't work like that.
But Alex, you see, per the EC's own arrangements, there's no police station that has more than 700 people on the roll.
No, that is not necessarily the case. You see,
that's what it is.
Let me explain to you. It's not true. Why? You see, you are missing a very fundamental point about what we advised the EC to do and they didn't do. When they were doing the registration, we said, open all the 33 registrations at the same time. Because of skepticism and fear, once you open a few, only say the place has 10 polling stations, and you open the first 3. People think that you will never come to the 7, and people from that 7 rush to go in. So if you look at the figures, you begin to see that some polling stations have higher numbers than others. Not because they would have been there, but they had fear that maybe it won't come to their turn to register. So they rushed to go and register in their constituency.
But Alex,
in those 3 areas.
The fact of the matter is that there's been never in the history of our registration process that every police station has had to open for registration to take place at the same time. Never.
No, that's not true.
That's the fact.
Well, that's something I cannot
Never.
I can verify independently. But you let's go.
Look, but okay,
we can.
Look, I think that when it came to registration, especially I think with the biometric, they opened it at every station. But we will come to that aspect subsequently. The point that I'm making is that is part of the flaw. Do you know that in some police stations, they divide it into 2 because of the numbers? Mm-hmm. So you cannot say that 700 is the limit. It's not true.
Right, you go on.
Anyway, the issue, look, President Nana Addo, has never ever accepted an election result.
Oh.
He has never. He's never considered. 2008, he never considered. 2012, he took us to court for 8 months. He never considered.
But once the court made the declaration...
He considered to the court. He never considered the election.
He said
he has accepted the result of the court.
Yes. Which was basically the result of the election.
No, but we are talking of conceding an election. Mills,
so you don't take the 2013 concession as a concession?
2008, 2000 election, 2004 election, Mills conceded. In one of them, he conceded before the election results actually even came out. John Mahama,
it was obvious that he had lost.
Please. Whether obvious or not obvious,
there was a concession.
There was a concession. And you have 2008, when you were in office, you had lost. It was obvious you had lost. Why didn't Nana Addo concede?
It took time.
Yes.
To decide the election.
When he did the election, why didn't he concede?
But he did.
He didn't concede. He's never conceded. Please, don't make this. We will monitor it. I was the campaign coordinator in 2008. He never conceded. Look,
that is why you don't want to concede.
The point, no, I'm saying that they are not the people who have a moral right to be talking about
concession.
Oh, really?
What do you mean?
What do
you mean? You are coming to talk about concessions.
Okay.
Are you joking?
All right. Let me take messages. Are you done?
Let me just check. Yes. Engagements. Okay, that's it.
Fine. Let me just take a couple of messages.
No, one aspect.
Okay.
We've all missed out one thing. There's another phenomenon cropping up. Names being added. It's not omissions.
What are names being added?
Asawasi. He gave the example in the speech. In Asawasi, 907, more than your one police station. 907 additional names have mysteriously appeared on the register. So we are talking of 2 things here: additions and subtractions.
But the addition is in only Asawasi so far.
We have given this example. That's where we found it.
So it's an isolated incident. As compared to the others where you expressed.
In Asawasi, it's an isolated incident. God bless you.
No, it's not saying.
It's all right. It's all right. I have nothing to say.
No, because for the others you have listed Upper East,
and I'm
Upper
saying
West,
that we have
Volta,
not gone through
Accra.
all.
Yes.
We are now going through all. And we will come out with our findings.
Okay, then until then we say it's an isolated. The addition is an isolated incident.
It's not an isolated incident.
Okay, let me read messages.
You don't have the facts. I've given you one example. But we told you that it's a fraction of the whole. It's a fraction of the whole.
But if you don't have the whole, why do you come out then?
But so what? We should go and do all the work when the time is ticking. No, don't say this.
Okay.
Don't say this.
Let's go. In the whole of Ashanti region, it's only Asawasi that's of interest to you. I thought earlier on in your submission, you said that we don't have the figures from Ashanti region. But Asawasi is in Ashanti region.
As we are all sitting here, we know that Asawasi is a hotbed for them. They need to get the seat. It won't come down.
The people of Asawasi will decide.
Understand? You understand?
Let me take. Okay, you finish up, and then I'll take the messages.
Okay.
You see, interesting. And in all sincerity, I really think that the Electoral Commission should be up and doing. Mm-hmm. Yes, I supported fully the need for a new voters register because, like I've said before on this platform, I was in the plenary when the report of the Special Budget Committee was presented. And I shudder to imagine a situation where we're going into elections where the elections management body had indicated that their systems were unreliable. Even with the conduct of a new voters register, listen to the kind of comments that is now coming from the NDC. Okay, and so that statement alone, as far as I'm concerned, vindicated or made it essential for a new voters register to be compiled. Now we've gone past that. Issues have come up, and I will urge the Electoral Commission to do whatever it takes to make sure that all the anomalies are resolved. Because unlike the NDC, who think that all these anomalies are intended to be for the benefit of the MPP, I do not think, because I cannot foresee or foretell who the beneficiary is going to be. It could be that the NPP is the one that is going to be at the losing end. And so it's important for the EC to clean up and make sure that all the corrections that needs to be done. Assurance in itself is good, but may not necessarily be sufficient. And so they should up their game and make sure that we have a register that both parties can be comfortable with going into the election. But let it not be said, as the NDC seem to be suggesting, that whatever it is that is happening today is with the connivance of the New Patriotic Party to gain some political advantage or electoral advantage in December 2020. We do not have the wherewithal. We do not have the spiritual mind to even foresee what is going to happen on the 7th of December. So let us be open about these matters. By all means, if there are issues, let's raise it. Let's discuss it dispassionately and provide the requisite support for Electoral Commission to enable them to deliver the election in December.
Okay, thank you very much, Honorable Mercer. Very quick one there. So let me take a couple of messages and then we'll move on to the Western Togoland situation. We have a lot more guests joining us for that segment of the conversation. So messages coming through 0549986996, 0549986996, and 0550585832. Good morning. My name was misspelled on my voter's ID. I went to the police station, I filled the form and went to the AC office and they corrected it on the ID. But when I checked my details using their SMS code, the mistake was still there. This happened at Kole Klote. This is coming from Alex from
I didn't send it to
North. From Ridge North.
It's possible that the system has not been updated at the time. It's possible.
Yeah. When my daughter checked at the SOS Village polling station, her name was not found in the register. But when she went to the Chema district office of the EC, the name was there. How? It means on the voting day, her name will not be found in the register at the polling station where she's supposed to vote. The EC needs to fix
So I guess that's the explanation that the Electoral Commission chairperson has sought to provide. That look, so long as your data has been captured, the biometric data of everybody is there. Okay? Mm-hmm. The essence of the whole exercise of the exhibition is for you to ensure that your name is included when you go to your registration center and you don't find your name. So if she fills the form, I'm sure that the needful will be done to ensure that on 7th of December she is able to vote.
All right. So this is Kwesi from Kaswa who says, what I don't understand is why and how should the EC exhibit empty registers for people to come and check their names? Are they telling the public that they didn't know that there were no names on the registers? How credible is this? Kwesi, your problem is not too clear for me.
Well, you've heard the NDC allegation that in some registration centers, all the 440-something people who registered did not find their names on the register. So essentially, the EC took a blank register to that police station, knowing that there was no name in it. Isn't this strange? So that's what he's seeking to point out.
Charles in Across who says, can someone diagnose what is really wrong with us? Why is it that the parties that are in government are always on the defensive side of the referee, no matter what it does? Let us not celebrate these things. Okay. And then on Twitter, a few messages there as well. Then we take a break. Kofi Ada says that Lawyer Mercer must know that where I registered, each polling station had over 800 persons on the roll. Okay, Jonathan Opoku tweeting on at Roso says after spending over $150 million and assuring us that there's facial recognition, how do we have these errors? How can a biometric device pin a female face to a male face? How can one ID not be pinned for several individuals since it is biometric? Kwekuesa tweeting on that Kente Kente says the issues emerging with the verification process are pertinent, and those of us listening are looking out for solutions from the panel and all the stakeholders. Also coming through says that when the soup is on the boil and the fufu is being pounded, and at the point where the plantain is being added to the cassava, you don't stop the one pounding the fufu and send him to go and buy your Guinness. The process must go on. That is quite the interesting message. Opat Charles says, if we can't learn from our the past mistakes of a whole institution and come to a resolve clad in such unprecedented anomalies, it leaves much to be desired. We just don't learn. Our leaders are making our future a bit bleak. And on Lawyer Mercer's statement that he doesn't have a problem with the NDC expressing concerns, but he has problems when they draw in the NPP into their claims. Kojo tweets says he agrees exactly with you. You are listening to and watching The Big Issue from here at Citi TV 97.3 Citi FM. We will talk about Western Togoland now. And if, for instance, you take a look at today's dailies, you go to the front page of the Ghanaian Times, for instance, it says 31 separatist militants grabbed in Volta Region, 1 shot dead, cop, 3 others injured. If you go to the front page of the Daily Graphic, 31 secessionists arrested, 1 shot dead. They blocked major roads to Volta Region. So it is the big story nationally. And we had our correspondent on the ground. Elvis was there. He visited one of the blocked entry routes in Agbotia, and then he filed this report. We'll also hear from Benjamin Aklama, who reported on the chaos in the area. When we return, we will hear from my 2 guests in studio, but also hear from Colonel Festus Aboagye, a security analyst.
It was a chaotic and distressed situation at the Agbotia Junction in the Volta region when irate members of the secessionist group Western Togoland blocked that section of the road in an attempt to prevent commuters from moving to and from the Volta region. The situation, which lasted for hours on Friday, saw several travelers stranded until a joint team of military and police personnel got to the scene to calm the situation. The group bent huge lorry tires in the middle of the road as part of their protest. Some residents gave an account of what happened.
Around 1 o'clock that way, before I realized that there is a jammer in this junction here. But as for me, I couldn't wake up and see what is happening. Me, I don't know. I don't even know that there is something that will happen and the two will be fearful like this or worrying. I don't know. So as I also wake up and bath and I want to go to work. Getting to this area before, and then I see that the military men are chasing. When you are coming, they will just chase you. When they get you, they will arrest you. So I also go back. I run away and go back to my house and go and sleep some.
Me actually think I don't see the thing before the thing to happen. Me I'm not there before the thing happen. I was in the house for the top there. So I wake up, go to the work before I see the fire burning for a way. I run come here before I see they burn some tires, lorry tire for here. Where the car they stop. So later on before the break, so just people they come around, kind of give the warning shoot, kill one of our brother.
And unfortunately, some people also they've just, for instance, they are jogging and the military men just arrested them. They are innocent. As I speak to you now, some of them they are in the vehicle. which we were trying to even to pursue them to release them, but they are reluctant. They are saying unless they hear instruction from above. So people who are innocent, Drapon itself, we don't have such groups that we identify them, we don't know them, that they exist in this town. But unfortunately, the person who is even dead rider is just a motor rider in town.
Although the military had warned the residents to leave the street for safety, some of them defied the directive. The police and military fired warning shots to disperse the crowd, but a 25-year-old Okada rider was hit, killing him instantly. Some of the residents claimed the military used excessive force, which was uncalled for.
I could only wake up to see that there is a burning of a lorry tire on the road. And then later, soldiers came. And then they were moving, and then people scattered. Yeah. So along the distance, then we heard that someone was killed when they were climbing up there. So this is all I know. But what actually is happening here now, I don't know the cause. Yes.
However, family of the 25-year-old Emmanuel Kali, who was shot dead, has described the situation as unfortunate. The head of the Kali family, Benjamin Kali, says they are yet to meet on the issue.
I don't know what actually happened there. Because I was in the house here when the military van came, went there, the pickup, and then returned. A lot of people were following the van, so I don't know what happened. And when it was peaceful, when they were here, everything was peaceful, so I don't know what happened next. We are here to assemble. I know the way forward.
Meanwhile, calm has returned to Abotia and Japon townships.
The security has now mounted a stop check at Tademe on the Sugakope Road, checking all passengers entering into the Volta region through that stretch. This is to forestall any further troubles by the secessionist group Homeland Study Group Foundation, which has been advocating for the breakaway from Ghana to form a Western Togoland. Some members of the secessionist group who suffered gunshot wounds this morning told Citi News their interest is in securing independence for the area. They claim they were only peacefully demonstrating without any weapons to press home their demands. Bloodstains, talismans and other black magic apparels were visible at the scene after the security intervention. The DCE for South Tongu, Emmanuel Lewis Agama, said the District Security Committee will convene a meeting to strategize on dealing with the situation.
3 of them got wounded and receiving medical attention at the health facility. As I speak, the situation is so calm now. The Equala movement is, ongoing, and DASEC would like to meet this morning to further discuss the security situation in the district. We learned they moved from North Tongue district towards my district. They are stationed in Bato area, and that's where they are coming from to embark on this activity.
MP for the area, Kwabena Woyume, said he is skeptical about the narration surrounding the siege this dawn.
It is too early to come to a conclusion as to whether it is or it has some political undertone anyway. But then it gives some, credence in a way, because I think and believe that we have a very solid security system in place. And this is a matter that is already before them. This is a matter already being investigated by them. and it's a matter being adjudicated also upon in the courts. And so I don't think this will go unnoticed.
Voting for certain news. My name is Benjamin Aklama.
So you heard Benjamin Aklama, Volta Regional correspondent, and Elvis Washington, Tema correspondent. We'll take a quick break. Send us your thoughts on this particular matter, 0549986996, 0550585832. When we return, Colonel Festus Aboagye joins the big issue.
They'll go with the 4-4-2 diamond formation for that early lead.
An early goal will settle the nerves.
Their away team has been in bad form. They will feel the pressure.
The home sides kept 2 clean sheets in a row.
It's all about momentum.
Who will have the stamina to last the 90 minutes?
Their star striker is suspended.
They've got no kappa.
The marking will be tight.
This will be won or lost in the midfield.
This is why I bet.
This is why I bet.
This is why I bet. Betway, for the love of the game.
AfriShepa Equipping Ojura Festival is here again. Tapped, safe, and smart Okwepiman. We continue to embark on exploring and discovering our rich cultural treasures together. And amidst this global coronavirus pandemic, we're staying safe with all protocols and being smart in the new normal. Join the celebrations from 28th of September to the 4th of October 2020 on www.ojurafestival.com. Also at Equipping Ojura Festival and at Okweapihini on all social media platforms. Ojura 2020, everyone send.
That planet. The world is impossible without time. That planet. Time is endless motion. Make time work for you. Bet Planet. Time to bet.
So you're welcome back, and let me welcome Colonel Festus Aboagye, retired lecturer, security analyst, very well published, very well respected in matters of intelligence. Good morning, sir.
Yeah, morning, Chief. How are you?
Always a pleasure, sir. First of all, how did we get here with this Homeland Study Group, and what did we miss? And by that I mean our intelligence community. What did they miss for us to get to the incidents that we saw yesterday?
Well, on the surface of what you and I normally know from the media, this group was established in 1994. That's Papavi's phase of the, let's call it a struggle for the independence of former British Togoland or Western Togoland. If we took notice in 1994, probably it was in the minds of the security system at the time, but it doesn't appear that we did anything substantive. But time moved on, and I think currently the face of this struggle from the perspective of the group escalated in 2017 and gathered a great deal of momentum in 2019, during which year they did a number of things. They declared independence. They established a training facility. Probably there were more that the state was not aware of. It's permissible to assume that they had embarked on some recruitment, mobilization, and so on and so forth. They had established or placed signposts, delimiting the boundaries of Western Togoland, which provocatively, were deep inside the territory of Ghana, way beyond what historically or geographically would be delimited as the boundaries of the Western Togoland. We have made arrests. We have not pursued the cases with due process. We had let them go. So they had been emboldened, I believe. And if we thought that our strategy was to be lenient and to use persuasion, it is obvious that that strategy has not worked or is not working. So yesterday what we saw was definitely an escalation. That beyond the training camp establishment and hoisting of flags and so on and so forth, this time they have seized or taken possession of vital installations within the country, including a police facility. And as your video, showed, had actually injured a police officer who was commander of that facility and his driver. This is a serious escalation. Let's leave aside any forms of conspiracy theories or whatever it is. If it was a conspiracy theory, that was a risky conspiracy theory that any political interest would wish to use what happened yesterday to make Volta Region, in quotes, ungovernable. So come 7th December, for instance, people will not be encouraged to go and cast their votes, So these are my preliminary comments. We have made mistakes. There has been intelligence failure. I understand some of the explanations by the Volta Regional Minister, Dr. Lecha. But in all analysis, you need to find the strengths and weaknesses of some of the theories. The idea that whole market was going to be destroyed or burnt down may not have 100% credence. The history of insurgency shows that insurgents from the beginning don't go around burning facilities that are useful to the community that they want to fight for. At the latter stages, if they think that the government is very, very intransigent, they may start, removing things like markets. They will be targeting police stations. And I think one of the videos that we've seen was a warning being sent out to the state to remove all police officers and anything government from the region. The next phase is going to be the armed struggle. And it started yesterday with the assault on the police station. How ready we are, we need to leave it to, the government. But in history or from history, I keep citing the example of Kwame Nkrumah on 7th March 1957, when the then Major Ankara, LA Ankara, was deployed with a very sizable force to Kando area. He stayed there for 6 weeks to accomplish his task of dismantling all the infrastructure of the Togolese liberation movement, as it was known then. In 1972, when a champion was confronted with this issue, among others, he established the Border Guard Service. That was one of the main reasons why, probably the only critical reason why the Border Guard Service was established, from its early origins as Preventive Service and Department 5 and so on and so forth. How well are we learning from history, our own specific history about the liberation struggle in the Western Togoland or British Togoland? And how well are we learning from other situations, especially in this context? The situation in Ambazonia, Cameroon. Cameroon escalated in the year, I think, 2015. I stand to be corrected a bit. When Ambazonia joined the UNPO, the Unrepresented Nations and Peoples Organization, they have a lot of resources, to educate, to support, to organize. And that was when Ambazonia got out of context. Papavi's group joined the UNPO in 2017, and that was a year when things escalated. So whether you are an intelligence analyst or not, by reading the ordinary information available in open sources, you can see that these people are well organized. Let me end my preliminary comments. My concern is the palpable silence of the government about what is going on, that the government has not deemed it necessary, important, if you will, to tell Ghanaians what is going on in this part of the country and what it is doing about what it knows about what is going on. That we need to leave it to conjecture from what we hear from the media, that certain things have happened and the government has acted this way or that way. The last example is that yesterday it was a DSP who labeled the group as rebels. Now, you don't label groups at that level. You label them at the strategic level, which is national security. So what are we dealing with? Are we dealing with secessionists alone? Are we dealing with insurgents? Are we dealing with rebels? Are we dealing with miscreants? It is not a matter of whatever it is that an inspector or superintendent gets up and decides what that national strategy is. Where is the Ghana strategy? Or where is Ghana's strategy for combating this threat? If there is, the government has not told Ghanaians, and I want to suggest strongly that in any war of this kind, you need the population in support fully of this government effort. You need the people in the region who may be neutral, not to move or change ranks and go and support the people. And you need the members of this group to change their minds. It comes from public information. And as of today, Ghana has completely lost the public information war, or the media war, or the media campaign. And the earlier we started fighting back and reclaiming that territory in order to shape the discourse, I think the better for all of us.
Now, let's talk a bit about the intelligence and some of the things that have happened. You talk about them declaring about, you give a timeline. So we had 94, we had 2017. From 2019 is when perhaps we started seeing the escalation. So we had the declaration, as you said, in November of 2019. And then I think the day before 6th March in 2020 was when we had them hoist the flag at the Volta Regional Coordinating Council, which is where the Volta Regional Minister works. And some way, somehow, we did not think that was an upskill in activity.
Well, if we thought that it wasn't that serious, that significant, we can allow the government to get away with it, let's say. But, when you move over time to the present, we know that strategy hasn't worked. Indeed, personally, there was no reason why the government should have dealt with the group in Kids Club or with Kids Club. The reason is that treason, I think you have lawyer Mercer there among your panel.
Yes.
Treason is the highest form of threat to any country. So when we had people plotting to overthrow the state, i.e. the government, what did we do? Till today, we don't know where they are. They have been arrested. They have been detained. The case is in court. Now, when another group purports to secede because it wants to pursue an objective of self-determination that will lead to independence, we take them to court, or probably don't even take them to court, and then we let them sign on a piece of paper and send them back to be good boys and good women or girls. It's not worked, and it's not going to work. The history of any insurgency, and we need to look at situations in our part of the world. It didn't work in Liberia. It didn't work in Sierra Leone. It's not working in Cameroon. These people are not going to reform. Indeed, those who were released, I'm sure, have gone back to the ranks of the membership of the Homeland Study Group Foundation. The example is that these 31 who have been arrested must go through due process. And there are good reasons why they must go through due process. Assuming that they are found guilty and imprisoned for whatever term there is, I think Lawyer Mercer can educate us a bit. We then have a bargaining chip that in future, when we sit around any table, assuming that we are not talking, in future, we have 31 of their members that they will be demanding that we will release or we should release. So when we grant an amnesty, we grant an amnesty in return for other concessions by the group. As of now, we don't have any bargaining chip because we have let go all the members who committed treason against the state. That strategy is not working, and I suggest that the earlier we change tack, I think the better for all of us. They must go through due process. But that's one side of it. What are their grievances? See, at the end of the day, this conflict revolves around the structural ones that will take a long time to resolve, and then the proximate ones, and one that comes quickly to mind. Anytime we hear about Eastern Corridor, And it's as if Ghanaians who haven't gone to school before. And we don't think that the people have a reason to be dissatisfied with how they are being governed, for instance. Then take the references to Volta Region and certain groups of airways who are members of whichever group in Togo. Is that how we build nations? Amanakan. Maybe I'm taking too much of your time.
No, you have time.
But I was told that the way Ashanti was built was that Obi Nchire, Obi Ase. So whether you were a Mosi man who came to Ashanti or you were from Timbuktu, wherever it is, Ashanti said that Obi Nchire, Obi Ase. We build one nation without distinction or favor or differentiation. During the registration, we had references by members of parliament or a member of parliament and so on, referring to a certain group of people as belonging to the other group across the border. And we thought that, he had not misspoken. He had committed a serious offense. Now they are using it as a grievance. That spokesperson that you quoted, I heard him yesterday. He has serious issues with that episode, including those in the Bono and Ahafo regions, where obviously there is empirical evidence that some groups of people who happen to be of Ewe extraction and Northern extraction were being discriminated against. And we think that it is not an important issue. And we are not speaking to those issues. Or when we choose to speak, we speak from partisan, positions and so on.
All right. Thank you very much. Opening comments there. I will come back to you. I have a couple more questions for you, but let me just do a quick round. Lawyer Mercer, since you are the legal man here, reference has been made to you continuously in having this conversation.
Let me say good morning to my good friend, Aboagye. I was completely taken aback yesterday when I heard the news. It's really an unfortunate situation because I least expected the escalation of the secessionist movement, if you like, to get to this point. And because I do not have competencies in security matters, I would defer largely to the comments that have been made by Colonel Aboagye because, of course, he is much more knowledgeable in that area. But I don't think that government has treated the persons who have risen up in the past with kid gloves necessarily. Because from my own perspective, I have never really seen them as posing any serious threat to the unity and stability of our country. And so maybe when those persons were arrested sometime last year, including the old man who obviously what it is that government did was to caution them and get them to sign some bond of good behavior and let the matter, lie at that point.
Maybe at that
Indeed,
point the government felt
Minister of Information and the Minister, of course, of the Volta Region Minister have spoken on this matter yesterday. I wouldn't begrudge anybody who thinks that the level of engagement may be, inadequate. And so a call on government to provide some better detail would be in the right direction. However, I think that the government has spoken. It cannot be that there's some palpable silence as Colonel described it in respect of this matter, because indeed he himself referenced the Volta Regional Minister in his submissions, and I heard Honorable Kujapon Nkrumah also make references to this case yesterday. I don't know whether we've gotten to a war situation yet, but of course, if there's clear and imminent threat, obviously the state security apparatus would have to up their game and make sure that, as the previous references that he made with respect to the historical attempt to, secede from the unitary Ghana, is dealt with decisively. And so I will support the call for him that, the people who have been arrested yesterday are properly carried through due process. And the appropriate sanctions meted out to them. Of course, if some people were left off the hook in the past, and clearly they've gone back to regroup and intended on creating the stability in the country. The state security apparatus should not look on unconcerned at all, and should of necessity do whatever it takes to make sure that we nip this thing in the bud once and for all. Treason, by all means, punishment for treason is death, you know, and to the extent that I don't know whether this attempt at secession is an attempt to overthrow the government, or that they are seeking to, as it were, be excluded from the governance structure and territorial, you know, of Ghana. But I think it's a serious offense. Maybe if the facts of the cases are put across sufficiently, we may be able to be in a position to determine whether I, you know, warrants the charge of treason, for which the appropriate prosecutorial processes ought to be carried through and the appropriate sanctions meted out. The KT Hammond comments, I think, clearly have been misconstrued. Because I listened...
By the group?
No, by commentators, if you like. I listened to the tape. And the fact of the matter is that we have Ewes in Togo and we have Ewes in Ghana. Ewes in Ghana obviously are Ghanaians. Ewes in Togo are not Ghanaian. But we've had experiences in the past where Ewes in Togo have taken advantage of the porousness of our borders to participate in our electoral process. It's a fact. But going forward, can we continue to have that situation where non-Ghanaians then participate in a Ghanaian electoral process? Obviously not. And it was within that context that I understood KT Hammond to be speaking. Mm-hmm. Okay, not necessarily discriminating against Ghanaians who are aware, because I was on a platform with Alex some time back. My very, 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 very good friends, you know, all through Addis-Ababa, through university, are Ewes. You know, some to the point of family. You know, we have a friend in the United States now, Doji, Gideon Haji. He comes to Ghana, and, you know, first point of call is always me. I mean, I go to the US and first point of call, we have been friends forever. When we're doing A-level, I mean, at the time, he was the one who was being paid for private classes in Augustine for him and I to attend on a daily basis. So it's worrying, you know, that some, if you like, elements, you know, are seeking to create wedges within us. I mean, Alex is a very good friend of mine. We've been associated for not too long, but we have mutual respect for each other, you know. And so, to that extent, I think that we are one people. You get what I mean? And so, any attempt to bring some division amongst that, to the point where it gets to what happened yesterday, then obviously, if government in the past took a position that, look, this is nothing serious, but that we do not want to clamp down on a certain segment of our population and be seen to be, if you like, anti-Ewe, okay? And so we will treat persons who have made suggestions to the effect of separating from Ghana in a certain manner. Clearly, the time has come, as Colonel amply indicated, that in the 50s and 60s and even in the 70s, serious attempts were made to clamp down on the attempt to secede from Ghana. Then we ought to do what it is that is necessary to ensure that does not happen. But you see, in all of this, I think that the politicization, okay, of some of these matters does not augur well for all of us as a people. Because I've read on social media, indeed some newspapers,
on this matter,
senior members of the NDC, including their director of elections, obviously Free Ankara, suggesting that government is only, in fact, he suggests that government orchestrated the activities of yesterday purely to create a certain sense of instability in the Volta region for purposes of declaring some state of emergency to prevent people from voting in December.
Are you quoting him or you are paraphrasing him?
Go on a Daily Post. Okay, I just saw it. Yesterday, Sam George on his Facebook wall that this is a statecraft that has gone bad. Now, if you give me a minute, I'll read it. Okay, and comments like this coming from members of parliament. Okay, clearly. When there's absolutely no basis.
Well, obviously, we don't want to encourage
lazy and
politicization.
poor statecraft by agents of state to shift attention from gross EC incompetence and manipulation and form the basis for military deployment in the Volta region. Member of Parliament, my very good friend. Okay, you read comments like this, that the government would put people up to go and set bonfire, if you like, in the middle of streets at various entry points into the Volta region 73 or so days before an election with a view to create some state of emergency, when the historical antecedents that we've been provided clearly cannot support assertions like this. Then we move it from the realm of state security and what it is that collective decisions or comments ought to be into the arena of politics. And then we leave the substantive issue aside and focus on what it is that people say in respect of matters like this. It makes you wonder, really? Really? The government of the Republic of Ghana will engage in such activity?
All right. Thank you very much, Honorable.
It's unfortunate.
Ejapa Mercer. Festus Aboagye, I'll come back to you. I need to take a quick break here from Mr. Segbefia. Then I have a couple of other questions. I want to talk to you about fertile grounds, financing, and recruitment. Excuse me. So we'll take a quick break. When we return, we'll hear from the Honorable Segbefia, and then we'll talk to Colonel again.
The world is impossible without time. Time is endless motion. Make time work for you. Bet Planet. Time to bet.
All right, thank you very much. And a couple of messages coming in. So this one says, this Western Togoland thing is really bad, and the security services must be vigilant to nip it in the bud. We must learn lessons from what's happening in other African countries, Cameroon, Nigeria, Somalia examples. This is Adamu listening to us all the way from Turkey. And a very upset Steve says, we are just joking in this country. If these people could mount a billboard without being noticed, carry out multiple well-coordinated attacks at security posts, and mount a roadblock on a major highway that connects major cities and towns without the knowledge of our so-called security forces, what is the guarantee that if they want to attack a national security installation, they will not have planted their devices by now? Which is quite the interesting question Steve is asking. But Ken, Festus Aboagye, let me come back to you. And you talk about the need to take these things seriously and ask about the grievances. Is there fertile ground for this group to grow, really? Perhaps that is why initially intelligence agencies left them alone. They felt that, well, this is not viable. Is there fertile grounds for them to grow?
I should think so. The question you're asking is actually one of context. So let's go back to the objectives of Papavi's group. They have articulated it in two strands. One strand, which is the higher form of their strategic objective, is 1, self-determination, 2, secession, and 3, independence. This, in conflict analysis terms, you call is the interest. The reason why that group and anybody who subscribes to them exist. They want to exercise their right of self-determination based on their understanding of what the UN Charter provides for. It's a human rights issue. They want to secede to become independent and manage their own affairs, to use Kwame Nkrumah's phraseology. But the subtext of this strategic objective is framed around 1, the group exists to discuss what they call political, civil, and human rights issues about the group that they are representing. So the question is, are there political issues? Are there civil rights issues? Are there human rights issues? Papabi suggests yes, there are these issues. And it goes back in history, back to the time of the colonialists, as I indicated, to suggest that during that time, the soldiers who were deployed actually killed innocent civilians. He has articulated that some women who were pregnant were forced to abort, and the fetuses removed. And he thinks that these grievances have not been addressed in time. Political issues, yes. You saw that, for instance. They were against the division of Volta Region post-division into Volta and OT. Because in their minds, Volta Region is Volta Region, dating back to 1881, 1884, when the Germans created so-called German Togoland. Whether we like it or not, that is how all our territories were formed. They were created by colonialists. And therefore, you cannot say that Western Togoland was a creation of the Germans. Recently, I mentioned how every now and then we hear about Eastern Corridor, Eastern Corridor, Eastern Corridor, that in that stretch of Ghana's territory, there isn't one road that you can call the strategic or arterial road that connects from north to south. Besides the dangers that they face, the hardships of traveling within that region, which indeed doesn't benefit only those in the region, but actually benefits the entire country. So they have grievances. It doesn't matter whether it is 1 grievance or 2 grievances or 3 grievances. Now, in this discourse from the registration, we heard, a reminder about how sometimes we have referred to them as inward-looking people and so on and so forth. They have cited the spokesperson who spoke, I said it, mentioned how he thought airways were targeted by the Honorable Katie Hammond or Katie Hammond, Member of Parliament that Lawyer Mercer mentioned. I didn't want to mention the name. But let me place the Honorable Katie Hammond's statement in context. In an election context, what he said amounted to hate speech. Now, hate speech as a broad term that includes insightful, inflammatory language, but also language that demeans, language that, divides, language that seeks to, intimidate and dissociate people from certain actions and so on and so forth. So what the Honorable Member of Parliament said was serious. Indeed, did he need to say that? And on whose authority was he saying that? Was he saying that on his own behalf, on behalf of the party that he belongs to? Indeed, was it necessary? It wasn't necessary. You say it. So there are grievances. Grievances are in the minds of those people. Now, how well Ghana has attempted over the years to resolve their grievances, I don't know. But it does appear that they have grievances. Whether it's 1 grievance, 2 grievance, whatever it is, it doesn't really matter. But let me add, I've said it elsewhere, that if all of us, wherever we are from in this country, are to mount any platform and say that we are being denied our fair share of the cake, we'll have reasonable grounds to articulate such a stance. Indeed, every part of this country is in dire need of development. So, what the group is trying to suggest is that it's not a matter of 1 grievance. It is a perception about how they fit into this society. And indeed, some of them have mentioned that in this administration, they can count on their fingertips how many airways are in the top hierarchy of the government. So they have many different ways of conjecturing whether indeed they are an integral part. I mean, Ghana accepts them as persons who are also Ghanaians or not. Then the other issue is about the purported UN document, which I don't know where it is, but the so-called union document, which they claim provided for a 50-year timeline after which the people can decide what they want to do with their lives. Now, the UN documents or reports that I've read on the plebiscite, I have not seen any reference to a 50-year timeline. I am not sure the UN is in the habit of establishing secret agreements with anybody, because being an intergovernmental nature is going to be as transparent as possible. So the possibility or likelihood would be that it was the United Kingdom government that did it. But the United Kingdom government did not have any legitimate right to do that, because it was only an administrator on behalf of the UN. So therefore, Papavi's group must produce that document. And I have challenged the government also, the state, that if that document exists and we know about it, indeed, it's a trump card. Nobody must spill one blood in this land if indeed such a document exists, which says after 50 years they must become independent. If we know where the document is, let's bring the document into the open. Let's negotiate. If we lose a negotiation, so let them go. It will not be the first and the last time that a part of any country, determines that it wants to go and manage its own affairs. What we must seek to avoid is where Cameroon is now with Ambazonia. And the indicators that I gave, how Cameroon escalated after Ambazonia joined the UNPO, and how our own situation has escalated 2 years after the Papavi's group joined UNPO, is something that we need to be worried about. They're not going to relent. They have examples of countries which were in their situation. Georgia, quickly, let me see whether I can find some of those countries. You have the examples of Estonia, Latvia, Timor-Leste, that many of us know about, Georgia, Palau, which have all become independent when they used to be minorities or ethnic groups. So they have a motivation. And that is one reason why I'm calling on the government at the highest level to articulate from time to time what Ghana's strategic position is and what it is that we are seeking to concede or not concede. But of course, I will say that there is no reason that, for whatever frivolous reasons, Ghana should concede in an inch of its territory. If the HSGF think that they have a solid basis, and we must commend them up to a point that they have sought to use pacific means to resolve their grievances. But yesterday marked a departure point. And that declaration by whoever was speaking, asking government to get all its police and whatever, is a declaration of war on Ghana. And I believe that the national authorities will look at that seriously. Don't just say that they are bluffing. In this kind of narrative, there's nothing like bluffing. So they have grievances. We should begin, even if they are going to leave next year, we should begin to resolve some of their grievances. If we can do the road, let's do it. If we have to build schools and hospitals and clinics, whatever we are doing in the rest of the country, let us do it. Because until such time that they cease to be a part of Ghana, they are a part of Ghana, and they should be treated, in all fairness, like all other Ghanaians.
So on strategy, you've spoken a lot about, let's do a holistic development. Let's not let them feel left out. But you've also spoken about the initial treatment with kid gloves. We also are facing the fact that we had the leader once. Now nobody can find Papavi anywhere. Is there a situation where the government says, okay, we want to put an end to this once and for all, so a complete show of force, or we do an arbitration of sorts and mediate our way out of this? or we do both?
We do all. We do all in a kind of sequenced manner, depending on what we think can leverage the situation to move us on to the next. Now, the dilemma that we are facing now is like the liberation struggle in South Africa. You remember, some time ago, under Buzier's administration, Ghana's position was that we favored dialogue. Even as young as I was then, I told myself that dialogue will never work. So, whilst dialogue was going on, and the ANC was talking to the apartheid government to the extent that the apartheid regime was prepared to talk to them, they were going on with the liberation struggle. They were establishing their networks. They are funding, networks and recruitment bases, Zambia, wherever, including Tanzania and so on, including Ghana. Different times we had different positions. So nobody should suggest, and it would be a very bad strategy, that we put all our hope in negotiation and mediation. It's not going to work. They will not stop fighting for the cause that they believe they should fight in, because they think that is a moral cause. Nobody should put all the weight in the military option or the military approach. We can deploy all the Ghana armed forces into that region. It's not going to work. In the long run, we might have to come and sit around the table. So it must be a mix of strategic options, negotiation and dialogue, the military presence to ensure that Ghana does not concede a territory that rightfully belongs to it, and that the people in that part of Ghana can continue to go about their social livelihoods, socio-economic livelihoods, and political activities and so on. Now, how the government balances the two is why we have a government, and we must believe that the government has the capacity and the resources, to try and define that strategic objective. But these are the questions that the government must come and have a discussion with Ghanaians. And let me mention again, yes, I grant that yesterday the minister spoke, and the regional minister also spoke. The question is that enough? And I've given you one danger. The danger being that at a tactical level, a superintendent of police has determined that these people are rebels. Who decides how a group is categorized? It's a strategic issue. So it's the government which will tell us whether they are secessionists, because we can have secessionist attempts without any violence, or whether they have moved on to become insurgents, are now armed, are controlling territory that we are fighting to regain. Or, as the superintendent said, whether they are rebels. You see, you don't play with these words just because you think that they are funny words. So we are actually modeling a strategic approach to the resolution of this conflict. And I think it's important that the government comes out at an appropriate level, not to come and share intelligence, but the intelligence that the state has must inform the strategy that they must educate Ghanaians on. And it's very important that all Ghanaians, are comfortable, are at peace with the direction that the government will be taking. If any segment of Ghanaians think that no, the government should not be going this route, as the Americans say, like some people have reservations about infesting, which is another technical term, that you infest the place or invest with military presence. But one thing that we should be doing strategically is that we need to beef up our intelligence. The Nkrumah's time that I refer to, nothing happened in the region that Nkrumah didn't know. So the deployment of Major Ele Ankara actually was able to destroy the group before it could do harm to the country. And let me repeat it on this platform, that in a champion's time, beyond and besides establishing the border guard service, a champion recruited mercenaries to go and overthrow the government in Lomé. That was when the government in Lomé realized that, look, this thing is not about Ghana, it's also about me. Immediately, it put in all the checks to ensure that Togolese did not influence the situation in Ghana, and that whoever were fighting for liberation were not able to use Togolese territory as safe havens. What exactly is our government doing? That is what I'm trying to suggest. The government needs to explain, not only to Ghanaians, but to the international community as well, to the Togolese, to our neighbors, and then to the people of the region, those who are not in support. And let me end on this note. The question about that, Voltarians are not in support, that is a bit propagandist. You don't expect that well-standing Voltarians in Ghanaian society will come openly or come out openly and say that they support Papavi. Don't expect that. In all, and yesterday I said elsewhere, former president of Liberia, Ellen Sirleaf Johnson, did we know that at some stage he was bankrolling Charles Taylor's group? But she was doing it quietly, So if you went and asked her, do you support Charles Taylor? She would have told you, no, that guy is a crazy guy. You say, this is part of the strategic analysis, not to believe whatever you think you are seeing. But I'm not also suggesting that everybody who is a Voltarian is for Papavi. We must win the hearts and minds of the people. And that brings me to the last point, the public information campaign. It targets 3 categories: those who are on the side of Ghana, those who are against Ghana on the side of the Study Group Foundation, and then those who are in the middle. It would appear from what we are seeing yesterday that some of the people are shifting ground. They're beginning to go into the camp of the Study Group, whether it is splitting or not. And that is dangerous because the government has lost the information war. And we need to reclaim that territory.
Interesting. I will come back to you for the final part. I have a few more questions and then we'll wrap the conversation up. Honorable Segbefia.
Well, can I first and foremost take this opportunity to congratulate Colonel Festus Aboagye for the historical rendition and really also looking at the problem historically, looking at where we are now, and also proffering solutions. I don't intend to comment because I think that if one tries to comment, one then will begin to enter into the political realm. But I would urge Citi FM to play his tape, not just for today, but at other times, so that people actually also benefit from the education that I think he has given us on a broad front, without the politics of it. If I wade into it now, it becomes political.
Okay.
And I don't intend to do that. I think we should just listen. He's made some very pertinent points. And people should just listen and take. The only point I will add is that the security should be up and doing. I didn't say the government. I said the security. Because this should not have happened to the extent to which it happened without their knowledge. Because as the history shows, this is not a group we never knew about. You can't put roadblocks in various parts and say that no snippet, nobody heard anything. If that is the case, then our security really has to be up and doing. As he says, with regard to nothing happened in those days in this area without coming command's knowledge. Your intelligence is key. Then I think that all the posters and billboards that relate to Western Togoland should be pulled down, because there's even a question mark as to what is Western Togoland.
Yeah.
Which parts of the North and the Volta region form under Western Togoland? And that argument is, so I just think that for now, Ghana is Ghana. There should be no billboard or poster that relates to any other country or secessionist group. It should just be pulled down. And the third point is that they must be encouraged to pursue, which I think they have started, the court proceedings. Because at the end of the day, that is going to be the ultimate answer to whatever problem that's theirs. So they should be encouraged, government should be clear on the stance, they should be encouraged also to take their grievance to the court. And it shouldn't be one of those court cases where adjournment, because people want to know where they stand. So if there's some proactiveness in a potential court case and a decision is made which can be justified on law, as Colonel was saying, where is the document that shows whether or not there was a 50-year time limit? Is it a valid document, or is it made by somebody who didn't have the power to make it? All those are things that we don't even know it exists because nobody seems to have seen this document. Then the other part is that when you want to kill a snake, cut the head. So who is financing? These things are not cheap. People have gone to a camp. They have trained. Somebody is paying. Intelligence again comes in. Because you must now see the network of financing. Today, Colonel can tell us that Johnson Sirleaf was part of the financier. Somebody knows something somewhere. And once you begin to know who the financiers are, you can then begin to see what the motive is from that person's point of view. Is it secessionist, or is it to destabilize the region, or is it what exactly is going on in the minds of those who want to finance such a thing? It could be external countries who just don't want to see Ghana being stable. Too much praise for Ghana for this, that, or the other. It could be internal people. It could be a lot of issues. But if you get to the financiers, you begin to get to to understand what the real motives are, whether it's actually the 3 points he raises or the issues he raises or not. But beyond that, those are points which I'm just reiterating, which he has made. No further comments.
Okay, well, those who are watching and listening have a lot of comments, after which I'll take a break and then wrap up with Colonel. So more messages coming in. He says, this is Eden from Wayarefa in Accra. And he says, I can assure you that a lot of hours, he says, I'm an ever. I can assure you that a lot of hours have sentimental attachment to the objective of the group, including politicians. Well, that's an allegation you cannot substantiate yet, Adam. Let's see. Who is a Ghanaian? It's a question that is being asked here. During the registration, we saw a high level of discrimination. Okay. Neo Kansi from Tema West says that he's also talking about discrimination. William Delali from Lakeside says, if our national security can't deal decisively with these alleged secessionists, how safe are we then when proper terrorists strike? Once a group elects itself to overthrow the state of Ghana, it has become an enemy invading the territory of Ghana. Hence, the commander-in-chief of the Ghana Armed Forces must deploy every arsenal at his disposal to deal with them. Are they working according to a roadmap, or serious national security breaches can be forgiven, just the way the Catholic Church does? If the latter is the case, the state must continue telling this group, go and see no more, after every arrest and detention. Also, my name is... Okay, Michael is talking about the EC issues. Good morning, Godfred. Just as the saying goes, Georgia is better than war. Prevention is better than cure. And she's talking about... Jones is talking about the EC. Samuel Akofo says, I cannot understand why our security did not get intelligence before these guys hit the streets to block the road and disturb the peace. We have a long way to go so far as our information gathering is concerned. Good morning. For the first time, I want to disagree with the president about his approach to this Western Togoland issue. The nation is under threat by a group challenging the sovereignty of the state. Yes, yet the president remains silent. Why? Nigeria allowed Boko Haram to grow and fester with serious consequences. The president must act now, is what he is saying all the way from London. Keep the messages coming in. We'll take a quick break. When we return, we'll take final words from Colonel and then Honorable Segbefia and Honorable Mercer.
They'll go with the 4-4-2 diamond formation for that early lead.
An early goal will settle the nerves.
The away team has been in bad form. They will feel the pressure.
The home side's kept 2 clean sheets in a row.
It's all about momentum.
Who will have the stamina to last the 90 minutes?
Their star striker is suspended.
They've got no kappa.
The marking will be tight.
This will be won or lost in the midfield.
This is why I bet.
This is why I bet.
This is why I bet. Betway, for the love of the game.
Welcome back to the big issue. So let me just read a quick one. This came from the police yesterday, the police and the armed forces, and then I'll go back to Kenel. The Ghana Armed Forces and the Ghana Police Service hereby jointly make reference to the activities of the Homeland Study Group Foundation, which occurred at dawn of Friday, September 25, in the general area of Japan, Sogakope, Aveime, Mepe, and Akuse, and to assure the general public that the situation has since been brought under control. It is confirmed that about 2 a.m. on the stated date, elements of the HSGF attacked the Aveime and Mepe police stations and further mounted roadblocks on the Japan, Accra, and Sogakope, Accra main roads, thereby disrupting the daily routine of the citizenry. In response to these unlawful acts, a joint military police team, in conjunction with other security agencies, deployed to the affected areas and succeeded in apprehending 31 members of the group. These arrested persons have since been brought to Accra for interrogation. Fire exchanges between the group and the security agencies led to the death of 1 member of the HSGF and injury to 3 others. The police commander at Aveime was also wounded and has been evacuated to the police hospital. The wounded HSGF members have also been evacuated to the Ho Teaching Hospital. All the roadblocks have been cleared and the security agencies have taken control of the highways and strategic installations within the region. It is hereby stated that an earlier preemptive operation on Thursday, 24 September 2020, foiled a plan by the group to burn the whole central market and other key installations. We wish to reassure the general public that the security and intelligence agencies are in firm control of the situation and remain undaunted in their resolve at preserving and protecting the sanctity of the entire territory of our dear country. In the meantime, the general public is entreated to remain calm and to volunteer any relevant information on the activities of the group for necessary action to be taken. Signed by Colonel Eric Agrikwashi, Director of Public Relations, Ghana Armed Forces, and Superintendent of Police Sheila Kese Abeye Backman, Mrs. So, obviously, there's a role for the general public to play, and we talk about volunteer any relevant information. How do we go about this?
Is that a question to me?
Yes, sir. I'm back to you.
Good. Let me borrow from the wisdom of Professor Kwesienin that I heard on another platform. In public information, anytime you request, encourage, admonish a segment or the entire population to volunteer information, you indicate where they should direct that information. So that statement that you read, for instance, if somebody gets up to them and thinks that he or she has a piece of information, where exactly do they call? Where do they go? Assuming that it's not possible for them to go out of their houses, or for fear of being observed entering a police station, they don't want to be seen in public going to certain facilities. Where do they call? These are minor elements that form part of what I call the public information, strategy. It must not be one-off. This press statement has come and gone. But in fighting this kind of threat, you need continuous, constant engagement with the population. I was young then, probably I might not have been aware, but I'm sure that in Kwame Nkrumah's Ghana, every 1 p.m., when our parents were shivering to listen to what Nkrumah had to say on what they call the rediffusion boxes that he had provided for many homes and schools, some elements of keeping Ghana one would have been there. I remember in those years hearing South African music playing because Nkrumah's strategic vision was to go and liberate the pockets of colonialism and so on and so forth. So we need to sit down and craft a very effective, comprehensive public information strategy. There are many elements. I've begun to wonder about where this group gets its legitimacy from. We can have a debate and question their legitimacy. But you go back to the plebiscite, there were 6 districts. Only 2, Ho and Pando, voted 72% and 66% to not join Ghana. The rest of the other districts, Buem Krachi, Gonja, Dagomba, Mamprusi districts, voted between 53 to 83 or 84% to join Ghana. So whom is this Study Group Foundation representing? There's a discussion that we need to have. Definitely they don't have any moral grounds, as they were trying to do in one of the timelines, going around the Volta region all the way to northeast and northern, and is it Savannah or whatever, the part that belongs to Gonja, for instance, trying to canvass for support. We can undermine their integrity and their legitimacy, and we're not doing that, So I have many little pieces of suggestions, but if you want to get Ghanaians involved, let's be sure that from today onwards, all of us, whether we are politicians or not, do not go about speaking mindlessly. But the thing about hate speech that I mentioned is that sometimes it seeks to emotionally disturb people. We don't need to make reference to whether Gans or Ashantis or whatever it is. We're having a political discourse, political registration or electoral process. Let's talk about those issues. That is one. The socio-economic grievances must be addressed. In fact, it wouldn't be wrong, given this threat, to divert resources more towards the Volta region than other regions of this country. I believe in terms of the regions that border Burkina Faso, for instance, the government would have considered already that in order not to create grounds for anybody who is a terrorist or whatever to come and, motivate people to join, let us begin to address some of the socio-economic grievances, the roads, the access to water, access to healthcare, and so on and so forth. The last thing we need to be aware of is that, look, if Volta region implodes, assuming they make the place ungovernable, or they succeed in making it ungovernable, so police are not secure, and police have been removed from certain facilities because they are not strong there, that vacuum will be filled by terrorists and extremists. And that is a narrative that we have in parts of Mozambique, where it is not safe for the police to be, and the military is not able to defeat whatever it is. The terrorists have moved all the way from Somalia, to go and operate there. It is a possibility, and we need to guard against that. So these are a few comments that I think, I would like to make.
Yeah, but I am also drawn to the fact that if you look at the geopolitics now of the sub-region we are in, we've had situations where, extremists, jihadists, terrorists, whichever category they are placed in, are looking for all kinds of opportunities. So they move from country A to country B if they think that there is fertile ground, so they are looking to spread their wings, although the ideology might be different, but wherever there is a need or a want, they seek to fill. Is that something that we should also be looking at? It's not just, it's happening in the Volta region. We should be looking out also beyond the borders at others looking at the situation and finding it interesting for their cause.
Definitely we need to be doing that. Indeed, there is literature. At least I've read one such literature. They're already in this country. These guys are not stupid. The terrorists are already in this country. Wherever Galamsey is taking place, in all likelihood, there is a terrorist member or affiliate or agent there. Their aim at this stage in Ghana is to find the resources to go and fund their activities, whether in Burkina Faso or Niger or, let's say, in the Sahel region, from Mauritania all the way to, let's say, Nigeria. So they are here. Now, whether we have the intelligence and whether we are dealing with it, I don't know. But obviously, given the lackadaisical way in which we have dealt with this galamsey, that place in the where the president comes from, what former president, what do we call it? The Gonja area, Bole. That is a place called Dollar Power. Look, the extremists are there. They are mining, to take back to wherever they can, use those funds or resources to support their causes. Then you come to the grievances. There was a video that I saw. It circulated. It's no longer circulating. But here was somebody who looked Asian, obviously, sitting by a pond or a well or some river, very dirty, with a Muslim female, because the person was in the Mayanka, drawing water from there. And the person was holding a bowl or a pot or calabash, and his narrative was that, look, is that what people have to drink? Now, when you look at that message, the message he is sending out is clear, that in Ghana, Muslims are not being looked after. Whereas the truth is that there are many places in Ghana where people drink from dirty water, including in Accra here, you see. So the government is aware of all these things. And that's why when sometimes you hear this bantering and we did this and you did that, and you don't see any concerted economic development plan that we need 1,000 boreholes in call them the 3 or 4 regions. And we have done 500 of them. And we have plans to finish XYZ and including, improving on some of them and so on and so forth. And informing the people without politics about what it is that the state is seeking to do in order to address some of these grievances. So that terrorism thing is a real threat. I am informed reliably that we have beefed up the presence along the border. But let's remember, was it 2019 June, 2nd or 3rd? That incident at Hamile, for instance. Yes, security was there, but nobody could speak the language of that gentleman they found in that Catholic church. They couldn't speak Mosi, they couldn't speak French, they couldn't speak whatever the language was. You see, so you can have military presence, security presence, whatever it is. But whether that presence is enough to detect whatever it is that you want to detect is another question, Right. Then you have this dimension that I've commented on. We have a very bad habit in this country where we apprehend suspects, we parade them, and we allow the media to have access to them and be asking them questions. So the gentleman that you showed in the purple shirt who was talking, you see, he has used our media platform to propagate the cause that he is fighting for. He shouldn't have been allowed. You get them and you transport them to Accra, wherever you want to send them. They don't talk to the media. Now, how are we going to correct that and when we're going to correct that? I don't know. It happened during this digression, Professor Bennett's assassination or murder. That we allowed people who were suspects to talk to the media. That is wrong. We found grenades, we put the grenades out, and people started talking in that hotel, for instance. That's not how you manage security. You see, that man has gained sympathy by being allowed to tell the whole world, because Citi News is heard around the world, isn't it? Or is viewed.
Yeah, I can see it behind you.
Yes. He has used a platform to inform the world that, look, we have a good cause. We are fighting for independence. We are not being looked after. We are being discriminated against. There are little things that, and look, with due respect and recognition to Lawyer Mercer, I shouldn't appear to be whatever it is. How you recruit and how you train. The question that we've been seeking to address that, let's stop politicizing our institutions. That you take people from wherever you put them there and say they are national security. If indeed we have national security, let them go to this region and let them deal with the situation. It comes with a lot of training. And this morning in a conversation I mentioned to somebody in Mozambique, where the naked woman was shot, and Mozambique was denying that it happened there. What did BBC do? It did what it had done before. It took satellite imagery superimposed on the picture that was circulating in the media. And they were able to point out these two trees that we see in the picture are here on the satellite. They were able to fix the location of that place where that naked woman was shot. They had done it before in Cameroon. We can use satellite imagery to find where these terrorists are. That is national security, that is national intelligence, not boys and girls without any sense of responsibility being taken along partisan lines and being put in the police service, being put in national security structures, and then we think that we have national security. That's not national security.
Thank you very much,
we
Colonel.
We can do better than what we are doing now.
Thank you very much, Colonel Festus Aboagye, and I'm sure a lot of people agree with you on that final point you made on how we recruit into the national security. Wanda from Akachi says, we must looking deep into the financiers and interest groups of this foundation is paramount in arriving at a solution. That is what he says. This group of Western Togoland should be thoroughly looked out for, as security are just checking the surface of this, and if care is not taking, and are just checking the surface and are not digging to its roots, one day the country may not be able to hold it any longer. Clement from Takrade. C. Ghana is playing a strategic role in the stability of West Africa. Any security in Ghana will overthrow the whole of West Africa, will throw the whole of West Africa into chaos and instability. And as Honorable Segbefia said, there are people who are funding these people, and they could be outsiders. We need to root this thing out once and for all. There's no peace in Mali, parts of Nigeria, and also a few of our other neighboring states. Ghana seems to be the only stable country amongst the lot. If Ghana is destabilized, the whole of West Africa is gone. We must unify our state. Good morning, Godfred. This was an excellent submission from Colonel Aboagye. The government has been quiet on this issue for too long. I don't know what their motive is behind this quietness. I think the government should sit up and look at the grievances of the people. I stand for peace. Hayford Ashaiman, Washington, sends this one. Hi, Godfred. This is Paul G. I hope this is a Paul G I know from Prempeh College. Good morning. And I totally agree with Colonel Aboagye, and that the region should receive adequate infrastructure development, and that the Togoland title should be taken off, as Honorable Mercer has also said. So thank you for your messages this morning, and a big thank you to Honorable Ejapa Mercer for making time. We'll come into your constituency to watch what is happening there. The Deputy Campaign Manager of the NDC, Mr. Segbefia, as well. Thank you very, very much. Are you going back campaign now that your press is
Definitely.
over?
Definitely, but we'll fix these problems. We'll make sure that the EC fix the problems. Then we'll go.
So until it's fixed, once
we see the process, it's a process. So once we see that, but we are not going to be sitting down on our laurels and just accepting what they say. We want to see action.
Keeping them on their toes.
Yeah, I thought that's why you have officers.
It's okay.
Are you telling us our strategy? Mercer, are you worried? Are you worried? Don't advise us. Leave us.